Okay, so this is the Daf for May 4th, 2025, Sunday. This is Daf 3 of Shevuot. Let's see. And for marring the edges of his beard, there are two edges from here. On one side of his face, and two from there on the other side, and from one below. Okay, so here, here, and here. The Gemara explains, as apparent from the Mishnah and Makot, this is a case where there is one prohibition for which one is liable to receive two punishments. Continuing on this theme, the Tana taught in the beginning of Tractate Shevuot examples of other sets of halachot that can be formulated similarly, beginning with regard to oaths on an utterance, there are two types that are actually four types. Okay, the Gemara inquires, what is different here in Tractate Shevuot that the Mishnah teaches all the sets of the halachot that can be formulated as two that are four? And what is different with regard to the chapter beginning the acts of carrying out that are prohibited on Shabbat? The first chapter of Tractate Shevuot. Shabbat. And the other chapter beginning in the shades of leprous marks, the first chapter of Tractate Negaim, where the Mishnah does not teach all of them, rather only the specific set of halachot relevant to that tractate. The sages say in explanation, since the passages of oaths and of liability based on one's awareness of the defilement of the temple or its sacrificial foods are written together in the Torah, see Leviticus 5, verses 2 through 4, and they are also similar to each other in that they can both incur liability to bring a sliding scale offering. The Mishnah therefore taught both of them together here, and once it already taught two sets, it continued and taught all of them. The Gemara inquires further. Tractate Shevuot opens with a reference to oaths, but then proceeds to explain the cases of one's awareness of the defilement of the temple or its sacrificial foods, returning to discuss oaths only in the third chapter. Why? The Gemara explains, since the cases of one's awareness of the defiling of the temple or its sacrificial foods are relatively few, the Tana addressed them directly and dispensed with them, and then afterward returned to teach the halachot of oaths, which have numerous details. The Mishnah teaches, with regard to oaths on an utterance, there are two types that are actually four types. The Gemara explains, the two types are where one states, on my oath I will eat, and where he states, on my oath I will not eat. If he violates either oath, he is liable to bring a sliding scale offering. These two types are actually four types because they also include the cases where a person falsely states, on my oath I ate, and where he falsely states, on my oath I did not eat. Okay. The Mishnah continues, with regard to cases of one's awareness of the defilement of the temple or its sacrificial foods for which one is liable to bring a sliding scale offering, there are two cases that are actually four. The Gemara explains, the two cases are where one's lack of awareness of the fact that he was ritually impure led him to eat sacrificial food, and where one's lack of awareness of the fact that he was ritually impure led him to enter the temple. These two types are actually four types because one is also liable where he was aware that he was impure but had a lapse of awareness about the status of the sacrificial food or the identity of the temple. The Mishnah continues, with regard to acts of carrying out that are prohibited on Shabbat, there are two types that are four. The Gemara explains the cases by using the analogy of a poor person who remains in the public domain and a homeowner who remains in the private domain, and one passes an item to the other. The two types are the carrying out by a poor person of an item from the private domain to the public domain, and the carrying out by a homeowner of an item from the private domain to the public domain. These two types are actually four types because they also include the bringing in by a poor person of an item from the public domain to the private domain, and the bringing in by a homeowner of an item from the public domain to the private domain. The Mishnah's final example, with regard to shades of leprous marks, there are two shades that are actually four. The Gemara explains, the two shades are of a wool-white leprous mark, se'et, and on a snow-white leprous mark, beheret. These two are actually four because they are also include a se'et and its secondary mark, one similar to it, and a beheret in its secondary mark. That is one similar to it. The Gemara asks, whose opinion is expressed in the Mishnah? It is neither the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael nor the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara elaborates, if one suggests that it is the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, the suggestion can be refuted. As doesn't he say with regard to oaths, one is liable only for oaths pertaining to the future, but not for those pertaining to the past. The Mishnah states that one is liable also for oaths pertaining to the past. And if one suggests it is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, the suggestion can be refuted, as does the saying, for having defiled the temple or its sacrificial foods during the lapse of awareness of the fact that one is ritually impure and is liable to bring a sliding scale offering, but one is not liable for having done so during a lapse of awareness of the fact that the place he entered was actually the temple. The Gemara states that one is liable also in such a case. The Gemara answers, if you wish, say that the Mishnah expresses the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, and if you wish, say that the Mishnah expresses the opinion of Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara elaborates, if you wish, say that the Mishnah expresses the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, and the intent of the Mishnah is that while there are 4 types of oaths, among them are types for which there is liability to bring an offering for one who violates them, and among them are 4 types which there is exception from liability for one who violates them. And if you wish, say that the Mishnah expresses the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and the intent of the Mishnah is that while there are 4 cases defining one's awareness of the defiling of the temple or its sacrificial foods, among them are cases for which there is liability to bring an offering, and among them are cases for which there is exemption from liability. The Gemara asks, how can one say that the Mishnah teaches types for which there is exception from liability? Okay, but the Mishnah teaches these cases similar to different shades of leprous marks, which indicates that just as there, all 4 of them are shades for which there is liability to bring an offering, so too here, with regard to oaths in case of one's awareness of the defiling of the temple or its sacrificial foods, all 4 of them are cases for which there is liability to bring an offering. The Gemara suggests a different resolution. Actually, the Mishnah expresses the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, and while Rabbi Yishmael does not deem one liable for oaths pertaining to the past, that is only with regard to the ability to bring an offering, but he does deem one liable to administer lashes. And this is in accordance with the statement of Rava. As Rava says, the Torah explicitly amplifies the prohibition of taking a false oath to be similar to the prohibition of an oath taken in vain, to teach that one is flogged for its violation. It follows that just as an oath taken in vain pertains to the past and renders one liable to receive lashes, so too taking an oath that pertains to the past renders one liable to receive lashes. The Gemara asks, granted that one who stated, on my oath I ate, but in fact he did not eat, or one who stated, on my oath I did not eat, but in fact he ate, is liable to receive lashes, as this is in accordance with the statement of Rava. And also, if one stated, on my oath I will not eat, and he ate in violation of his oath, he's liable to receive lashes, as it is a prohibition that involves an action. And in general, such prohibitions are punishable by flogging. But if one stated, on my oath I will eat, and in violation of his oath he did not eat, why should he be liable to receive lashes? It is a prohibition that does not involve an action. The general accepted principle is that one is not liable to receive lashes for violating a prohibition without performing an action. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yishmael disagrees with the generally accepted principle and holds that one is flogged for the violation of a prohibition that does not involve an action. The Gemara challenges, if so, then a difficulty arises. A kashya arises between one statement of Rabbi Yochanan and the other statement of Rabbi Yochanan. As Rabbi Yochanan says, the halacha is always in accordance with the ruling of an unattributed Mishnah. Since the Mishnah here is unattributed and assumes that one is flogged for taking a false oath, Rabbi Yochanan should rule that this is the halacha. Okay, it says, and in Amoraic dispute, so basically the rabbis from the Gemara, was stated with regard to one who said, on my oath I will eat this loaf today, and the day passed, and he did not eat it. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both say he is not flogged for taking a false oath. They disagree with regard to the reason that he is not flogged. Rabbi Yochanan says he is not flogged due to the fact that it is a prohibition that does not involve an action, as he violates an oath by failing to perform an action rather than by performing an action. And the principle is, with regard to any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is not flogged for its violation. And Reish Lakish says he is not flogged because it is in uncertain forewarning, as one cannot forewarn him before he fails to fulfill the oath, because as long as time remains in the day, he can still later eat the loaf and fulfill the oath. And an uncertain forewarning is not characterized as forewarning. So evidently, Rabbi Yochanan does not rule in accordance with the Mishnah here. The Gemara resolves the difficulty. Rabbi Yochanan found another unattributed Mishnah, which holds that one is not flogged for a prohibition that does not involve an action, and he rules in accordance with that Mishnah. The Gemara asks, which other unattributed Mishnah did he find? If we say he found this unattributed Mishnah, we learned, Pesachim 84a, but one who leaves over some of the meat of a ritually pure sacrificial offering until the morning of the 15th of Nisan, and one who breaks a bone of a ritually impure paschal offering are not flogged with the 40 lashes. That is difficult. First, the Gemara explains how this Mishnah demonstrates Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Granted that breaking a bone of an impure paschal offering does not incur lashes, as it is written, nor shall you break a bone in it, Exodus 12:46. The term "in it" indicates that the verse refers only to a valid paschal offering, but not to a disqualified one, such as one that is impure. But in the case of one who leaves over some of the meat of a pure paschal offering, what is the reason he's not flogged? Is it not because it is a violation of a prohibition that does not involve an action, and for a violation of any prohibition that does not involve an action, one is not flogged? Okay. The Gemara now questions this explanation of the Mishnah. But from where is it apparent that this Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov, who says that for a violation of a prohibition that does not involve an action, one is not flogged? Perhaps the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and he holds that the reason the Mishnah rules that one is not flogged is due to the fact that the verse comes to position the positive mitzvah of burning the leftover meat after the prohibition of leaving over the meat, and one is not flogged for a prohibition whose violation obligates one in a positive mitzvah. Okay, but were it not for this, one would be flogged, despite the fact that it is a prohibition that does not involve an action. Since the unattributed Mishnah is not necessarily in accordance with Rabbi Yaakov's opinion, it cannot be the basis for Rabbi Yochanan's ruling. Now, the Gemara cites the source of Rabbi Yaakov's and Rabbi Yehuda's opinions. As it is taught in a Baraita, you shall let nothing of it remain until morning, and that which remains of it until morning you shall burn in fire. Exodus 12:10. The verse comes to position the positive mitzvah of burning the leftover meat after the prohibition against leaving over the meat, to say that one is not flogged for its violation. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yaakov says this is not for that reason. Rather, it is due to the fact that it is a prohibition that does not involve an action, and for a violation of a prohibition that does not involve an action, one is not flogged. Rather, Rabbi Yochanan found this unattributed Mishnah, which teaches, so 27b, if one states, on my oath, I will not eat this loaf, and immediately states, on my oath, I will not eat this oath. On my oath, I will not eat it. And then he ate it. Okay, so that is the end of Daf 3. Thanks for watching.